Yo, what's good? I appreciate y'all for tuning in. In this video, we're going to jump into this latest news that's going on with Super Mayor Tiffany Henyard. It's kind of an update as to the federal investigation. More importantly, we're going to talk about what does it mean when you're under federal investigation and the people around you start being looked at for things or start getting picked up for things, or they're starting to expand the scope of the investigation. What exactly does that mean? What does it have to do with the time frame? Let's go ahead and dive into the video. Let's get it.
10, the federal investigation into embattled South suburban politician Tiffany Henyard is expanding.
Sources tell us tonight the FBI is now looking into how taxpayer money was handled in Thornton Township, where she's a supervisor, at least for a few more weeks. Henyard has been a no-show for every Thornton meeting for months, and it was no different tonight. Our Jermont Terry is live in the South suburbs with what he's learned. Jermont?
Joe and Erica, tonight, multiple sources confirm that federal agents have, in fact, ventured here into Thornton Township. And in the past 3 weeks, they have talked to several current and former employees of the township, all talking about the spending associated with Henyard's administration and her time as supervisor, a tenure which comes to an end in May.
Now, we already know, we're aware that they're looking at the money. That's what makes these federal fraud cases when it comes to politicians for public corruption. Let's finish checking it out.
Any further discussion? If not, call roll, please.
Tuesday night, Thornton Township trustees carry on official business without the lame duck supervisor, Tiffany Henyard. Despite Henyard's term coming to an end next month, she remains MIA for her position.
I can't remember when the last time was.
Yet over the weekend, Henyard did show her face to hand out food boxes to residents for the Easter holiday.
Thank you so much for loving on me. This is not the last of your Super Mayor Tiffany Henyard. I got bigger and better things coming.
CBS News.
That's actually scary, but it's sad that as an elected official, you don't even have the decency to show up and do your job, at least try to do your job on the last few weeks. It's sad. I'm gonna be honest, I kind of understand why she isn't showing up, because she would essentially be cornered. I think that Tiffany Henyard has a lot of legal exposure out there remaining with vendors, other persons who may want to seek civil action. And if you show up for this meeting, you're probably going to get served, as opposed to if you're at your house or your apartment or on top of a car wash or wherever the hell you staying. You're kind of transient. People really can't get a bead on you. It's actually scary that she says she has bigger and better things planned, because from what I've heard in reports and through these streets from people who are tied to the community, I'm thinking she thinks bigger and better means some type of elected or appointed position, which is terrible because it's just another means for her to be able to finesse resources from the municipality, from the taxpayers.
Chicago, through multiple sources, confirmed the feds have come into Thornton Township. The FBI was already looking into Dalton finances spending, and now the probe, according to sources, have spilled over into the township where Henyard was appointed.
It's probably more gone than we think is gone.
Mary Avant is a newly elected trustee and will be sworn in next month. She's not at all surprised the feds are now widening the investigation to the township Henyard oversaw.
Now, this is actually interesting because we know at first a lot of the subpoenas were going to the village of Dalton, but I said this in multiple videos. There is a lot more opportunity to fraudulently take advantage of taxpayers and misuse money when it comes to Thornton Township. The township is much larger than the village of Dalton. The township has multiple villages, cities, towns, whatever you want to call them, parishes in it. The access to resources as the township supervisor are much more large scale, and there's a much bigger opportunity for theft. Now, this is going to be where you're going to see if there is fraud occurred at a much larger scale, because the township has more financial resources. The other thing we have to think about, remember, she was preaching for a long time that, hey, we knew the village of Dalton was in financial despair. but she was talking a long time about a surplus, a surplus. Again, we never saw anything to substantiate these numbers. We did see some bogus numbers she put up that was in different font from a bogus email that just looked sketch as hell. But the facts that the feds are looking, the feds aren't going to come looking if there is a surplus. That's just not what they're going to come look for. So just this in and of itself, them looking at the township finances, lead me to believe that the township is in just as much financial despair as the village of Dalton, which is sad.
What is your thoughts and concerns when you hear that federal agents are now talking to Thornton Township employees?
I'm actually pleased with it.
And remember that infamous Township Brawl when Henyard jumped in the middle? There's new fallout. The activist and his friend are now suing the township. The two fought with Henyard and her boyfriend, who was a township employee at the time. Tuesday night, the trustees voted to hire an attorney to represent the township.
At the time, she was a supervisor. She is the supervisor today. So once again, it's just to protect the township. You know, she still is, as of right now, part of the township.
Good move. They're going to have to hire an attorney to represent the township. I'm just going to be honest. If I'm filing that lawsuit against Tiffany Henyard over that fight, hey, she was at a meeting that was associated with her job. I'm saying that, hey, she was acting in the course of her business. Everybody who was there, who was a government employee at the time, her boyfriend, this was prior to him being terminated, acting in the course of his business. He was on the clock. When you're on the clock and you do something wrong, it's a much worse situation to be in, because now you're looking at reaching past Tiffany Henyard's pocket, past Kamal Wood's pocket, into the pockets of the taxpayers.
So here in Thornton Township, when an elected official misses 5 consecutive meetings, they have the authority to somewhat remove and start the process, remove that person from office. However, because she only has 1 meeting left, Henyard, that is, they're questioning as to whether or not it's even worth it at this point. But one thing that is moving forward, that federal probe where federal agents are currently talking to past and current employees. Reporting live in Thornton Township tonight, Jermont Terry, CBS News, Chicago.
Okay, so shout out to CBS News and Jermont Terry for that story. It's an absolute shit show. If she was conducting herself this way in the village of Dalton, it's just common sense that she was conducting herself this way at the Thornton Township. I said it before. There was absolutely zero chance in hell that she could manage one municipality ineffective as hell, possibly criminally, just negligent with what she's doing with the money, and manage the other municipality just in an outstanding way that's going to create a surplus. That's normally not how it happens. You're like, oh, I'm jacked up over here, but I'm good over here. Normally things aren't that inconsistent. You're consistent. If you suck over here, you're going to suck over here. If you're nice over here, you're probably going to be nice over there. The big question is, what does this mean for the investigation? Well, this tells me a few things. First of all, there is likely not going to be an indictment for a while. I was banking on the fact that it would potentially be sometime in the summertime, late July, August. But the fact that they're expanding the scope to look at the township, and now they're just starting to ask questions. They're just starting to talk to people, to conduct interviews. This is the super, super early stages. We've seen the village of Dalton get a lot of subpoenas issued. We have yet to see a lot of subpoenas get issued for, Thornton Township. So that's kind of going to be the next step in this process. But what this tells me is that they are in the early stages. What this also tells me is that they have time on their hands. The general typical statute of limitations for federal offenses, criminal offenses, are 5 years, more or less. Most of them are about 5 years. A lot of the things that's being alleged in the village of Dalton, the things that they're looking at now, are going to be ripe. It's interesting because if there is a conspiracy, if they can prove that there's like an ongoing criminal thing, this could allow some tolling or potentially expanding and extending the statute of limitations. But as it stands right now, I think it's going to be a while before we see any indictment that is going to be levied against Tiffany Henyard. Probably some of the lesser guys, because the lesser guys are getting picked up for crazy stuff that is light. When people around you start getting picked up for things that are light, the only reason that the feds are not doing it, but the best thing that the feds can get out of it is leveraging whatever offenses they have against your cronies against you. So that's probably what's going to happen. But it just depends how close in proximity they were to the fraud, to the actual scheme. How much information do they actually know? That's it for this video. Y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments. Do y'all think that this investigation of Henyard with regard to the Thornton Township finances, because it's so early, do y'all think that this indictment is going to be something that's going to take 8 months to a year? Or do you all think that this is something that's going to happen in the next 3 to 6 months? I would say if we're lucky, 8 months to a year. Remember, we got about at a minimum 5 years, potentially longer. There could be anything wrapped up in the misuse of this funds. There could be potential federal funds. There could be potential PPP funds that are tied up in this. And when PPP funds are tied up in anything, remember the federal government extended the statute of limitations to that from 5 years to 10 years. So they have time on their hands. Nobody is in a rush. Y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments. And if you enjoyed this, check out the content on the screen. There's going to be more content related to attorney reactions. Peace.